Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of LockDown with, and today my biggest guest so far on the podcast, very special guest. Please welcome to the podcast everyone, Josh Revell. How are you today, mate?
Yeah, could probably do with a couple more hours sleep, but such is the life of living on the other side of the globe. So
And time zones.
Yeah,
so for anyone wondering, Josh lives in New Zealand and I live in the UK, so literally opposite ends of the world right now. I'm pretty much, is it like a 12-hour difference? Like, what time is it there for you now?
So it's 6 a.m. for me right now.
And it's 7 o'clock here in the afternoon here for me, so that just shows what we're dealing with right now, like time zones, and it's a bit mad, like in my head, just thinking like how can someone be in a different, like you're literally just waking up, and I've like just finished like a full day. It just feels really weird.
I mean, I've been in both time zones, and like you just sort of can't comprehend it.
I've been to Thailand, and I don't know what the time difference is. It's not what 13, 12 hours. I think it's about 8.
Yeah, something like that.
So thank you for coming on, just sorting the whole time zone out. But I think we should just go from the start and just like, how did you get into F1? Like, where did it all start for you with motorsport, I guess in general maybe?
Yeah. So back in 2001, whenever it was like 5 or 6 years old, whatever it was. The folks, they went in to buy me my first gaming console, PlayStation 1. God, that's archaic. Nothing beats seeing those blocky characters with oversized heads,
Yeah, I remember my dad having what was it, one of the Formula 1 games on the PlayStation 1. And I played it last year when I went over to Spain to my dad, and it was just crazy, the difference. You forget how different games were back then.
Absolutely, but it was ultimately what introduced me to the sport was Formula 1 2001 on PlayStation 1. And I still remember a lot of that game, even though I haven't played it in so long. I still remember the Murray Walker and Martin Brundle commentary, a lot of what they say, the sort of arcade career mode or whatever it was. A lot of aspects of it, and it introduced me to the sport, and then I was bought highlight packages of V8 supercar races over here, and that introduced me to the real life racing. And in terms of the first time I actually watched Formula 1 events, God, like I can't nail down what my first Grand Prix ever was to watch.
I don't think I can remember my one either.
The first one I remember though was either 2003 or 2004 German Grand Prix was the first one I remember vividly, simply because Jenson Button was holding the side of his helmet to try and stop the visor from coming off. That's the only reason I remember it, which is kind of weird, I suppose. Now, obviously, I can't give you a play-by-play in regards to how it all happened, but that's basically sort of about as much as I can tell you. It was all just sort of baby steps, and thankfully the family sort of nurtured that.
Are your family into motorsport?
Not really. I mean, my mum was sort of, into, sort of the V8 supercar sort of stuff, but I think it's ingrained in the culture here a little bit. With Formula 1, hardly anyone in the family really watched it. But, from, me watching it as a kid to, competing in national esports events, doing the karting scene here in New Zealand, through to doing the YouTube channel, they've all been intently involved in it in every way, shape or form, and they've been incredibly supportive. It's not as if they say, "Why do you watch that crap?" They've always been, thankfully, I've had a family that's sort of accepted the sport probably a bit more than I have, with how much I criticize this elitist sport. But yeah, it's.
But how did that go from watching it and then deciding, I'm going to start making videos on this or start talking about it? Where did that turning point happen?
Right on. Yeah, so the first instance of me making a video was 2018? Yeah, it was 2018. When I was looking up for a video on Andrea Moda, because I was like, what's the story of these guys? But there was nothing. I was like, why don't I make my own one? But, back then, I was broke. I was really, really broke. I had nothing on me, so I had like the most basic software and a microphone where it was basically a $5 headset, which was broken in half at the top, and the microphone dongle itself was also broken from the headset. And then in post, I tried to bass boost it to a point where, it was just, the quality was and it was awful in every way you can imagine. And I think you could see as the video went on, it was trying. I initially started it off sort of serious, and then you could see as the production went on, it just evolved into something a little bit more humorous, kind of. It was a bit of a weird one. But
Did it take multiple days to film then, or?
It was sort of my off time from when I was working. But then, finished it and released it, and it did okay, about 1,000, 2,000 views, something like that. And then one day, I don't know why, but it just, it was like 12 months later, it just took off and got like 250,000 views. It's like,
wow,
okay, so there's a stomach for this content, I suppose. I mean, I didn't want to do it like that because it was awful. I hated that video like so much.
Out of all the videos.
But, I was just thinking, like, okay, if I'm going to do this again, I need to do something that's worthwhile. And this is the thing that, if I can use this language, this is the thing that shits me with a few YouTubers out there, who I won't name, they're just in general, who see other YouTubers and think, I want to do what he's doing. Whereas when I started it off, it was more about no one's doing this, and I felt that
you try to find a niche.
I wasn't necessarily trying to find a niche. It was something that I wanted to see in the community. Like, the sport takes itself way too seriously a lot of the time. And I think, there needed to be a formatted video out there which delivered every bit of information that you needed, but took the piss out of things, such as, the pay driver aspect, or the common crashing, or how slow a driver is, exaggerating all that, random explosions and everything like that. You gotta have fun with the sport sometimes, and no one really did that, or if they did, they weren't doing it on the regular or in the format that I wanted. I had a clear idea for what I wanted to do, which was to bring in the sort of animated character, even though back then I had no idea what I was doing. But of course I had no graphics tablet back then. So I just used Bitmojis, which was just the most
I remember them.
archaic, again, the most crude way to do an animation. But, eventually, the Patreon money and the Google money came in, and I bought my first graphics tablet, which I've still got.
Yep.
But making those animations takes forever. Like,
do you have like 5 animations of like different movements and then just put them together? Or do you have to like make them every time? Like, how does it sort of work?
Yeah, so they're preset, and I put them in frame by frame. And I'd love a lot more movement, and I will be working on that in the future with a third party to help out. But there was a video, a couple of videos, I think it was on Revell, where I actually had the mouth moving on the character, and to create the few frames on that and put it together took about 5 or 6 hours.
I can imagine. So you could make the mouth movement. 1
or 2 seconds of that animation took about the same time as, in terms of regular content, about 3 or 4 minutes with a runtime.
You can get a long done, yeah. You can get a lot done in 5 hours.
And again, because I script these films, researching, scripting, doing the audio, and audio is the worst part of all video editing. Then editing the video, polishing it, making sure it's all coherent, all within 5 or 6 days. In that time, trying to find time to do the animation is just out of this possibility. No, the channel really was birthed out of taking inspiration from what other YouTubers have done. Like Alex Myers, and how he takes subjects which I would not be interested in the slightest. Yet the way he does it, you can always appreciate it because he portrays it in a medium which you don't have to be a fanatic of the show he's reviewing. He brings it to a whole new audience, and that's what I wanted to do with mine. Was really just like, I'll give you the facts on this, but hopefully the way I'm presenting it, even if you have got no clue what's coming out of my mouth, at least you'll have a bit of fun. And that's something that I've gotten from family members, especially, who said, Josh, I got no idea what the hell you're saying. I know nothing about Formula One, but I'm laughing my fucking ass off the whole time watching the thing. And it's just like, it's like, okay, great. And I know people who've watched it who knew nothing about Formula One and, clued themselves in, which is, obviously great.
What was the idea for the animation little character? Was that just to try and make it a bit more funny and less serious to have this animated character, rather than go for like just audio or just like a face cam or anything?
I felt there was a few ways to exploit the animated character rather than, being on camera. Plus, at the time, I didn't really have any camera equipment which I felt would really be good enough, so to speak. I could barely afford a proper... I mean, I was borrowing, the microphone that I've got today, the Blue Snowball, I was borrowing that from my mate Johan Ward.
Wow.
So I still didn't even have a microphone, and I bought it off him about 6 months after I posted my first proper video with Zeltvik. So purchasing the sufficient equipment for the camera, I mean, that was a separate matter. No, well, I always had the mindset that the animated character was something I wanted to do, because it was different, again, all of this was born out of, like, no one's doing this, I want to see it, I know how I can make it work, and even today, I'm nowhere near where I feel the potential is. It's just, as pathetic as this excuse may sound, time is really not on my side with these videos. Ideally, I would like 2 or 3 weeks to make each video. And hey, in the future, maybe I can develop, myself even further, I remember there was a time where videos weren't coming out for 3 months at a time. But
they just take that long. Wow.
Well, they took that long, plus I was still working full-time. And then the transition to YouTube full-time took place in June. And that was a really fucking scary time, because...
June last year?
June last year, yeah.
Wow.
So, but it's a funny story out of all of this. Probably, sorry if I'm jumping ahead of the questions here, but
that's all right.
Yeah. So the story of how this all came full time. So when I started this, I was working as a computer repairman for HP here in New Zealand. Sounds great, but I wasn't really too interested in it, and the pay was garbage, especially here in Auckland. One of the most expensive places to live, and
getting paid
they're paying
jack.
Peanuts. It was a little bit crap. So the channel gained momentum in about December. That's when someone shared the Dan Tickton video in a WTF1 post.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then, holy hell, it just snowballed.
When WTF1 shares it, yeah.
Well, WTF1 didn't share it. Someone shared it in the comment section of WTF1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know who that person is, but I owe them
Shout out to them.
a Christmas card or something. It's free pizza. But yeah, by Christmas or New Year's or whatever it was 10,000 subs. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ride this wave of momentum. And the UGE Day video got 1.1 million views. It's now at 2 million.
Wow.
It was crazy. And then the Toyota Racing Series started off, and I did a preview series for that, and that was great because a few people that watched the channel were also racing in the series.
Oh wow.
The series organizers, thankfully have given me free reign to talk over the event, so they're just like, just take whatever footage you want and just promote the event. Just like, we're not going to lynch you. We're not Formula One management.
Yeah.
During that weekend, two things happened. First of all, that was when I released. This was during Hampton Downs weekend, which was round 3. Two things happened then. I released the Mahavir video that weekend, which
Yeah.
that took on a life of its own, and I had no idea the impact that would have at the time. For me,
We'll get on to after.
that video was all just about summarizing what happened, because we all already knew what happened during that season. Yeah. It was a mess. I just figured, look, I've got to.
It was gold.
Just cover this, because this was just ridiculous. And I'll talk about that one a bit later on. But the other thing that happened that weekend was I met the owner of Autocar New Zealand, who was also a prominent feature in New Zealand motorsport scene.
Oh wow.
Mark Patch, and he liked what I did. He liked what I was able to write and how I get things across, even if I'm crude sometimes, and offered me a job as a journalist at New Zealand Autocar.
That's crazy, man.
And Velocity News, which was, the leading motorsport news site here in New Zealand. So it was great. I thought, for me, this is my dream. I'm working in motorsport. So, getting media passes to every motorsport New Zealand event and so forth.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, so I handed in the notice at HP and began work as a motorsport journalist. And I was thinking, this is great, because I can work from home. This was before the pandemic affected everything. I could work from home. I've got all the time in the world now to make videos.
Yeah.
I could not have been more wrong.
Oh.
That job was pretty damn demanding.
Oh wow.
Because you're editing for 2 websites, you're having a quota, you're trying to get clicks, and as more often than not, you're reporting on races outside your work hours. Your Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3.
Oh yes, true. For you as well.
So you're reporting on all that, and you're having to watch these races, and I all of a sudden didn't have time. And then about the same time where I released WTF Happened to Pastor Maldonado, about the same time I realised, the channel's starting to die in the arse, in the sense that there's not much movement, and hardly any videos are being produced.
It's been too busy.
So I was like, well, I've got to make a choice here.
Yeah.
Because I am earning money from Google. It's not a lot, but
you're making something.
I got to make a choice, because at that time I was earning about just a little bit under minimum wage here in New Zealand from Google, but that was what I was earning when I was producing that much. I was like, look, if I go full time, this could definitely pay dividends. But I realised, especially in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a pandemic, to say to my boss, I am quitting to become a full-time YouTuber, it's just like, what?
That's a big risk.
You do realise what you're doing. And I remember the first paycheck I got. So minimum wage over here is about $2,500 after tax.
Yeah.
Per month. First paycheck I got from Google after quitting my full-time job before tax was $758. I was like, okay.
Oh no. What have I done?
But you know, since then, I won't drop the exact figures, but
No,
you know,
of course.
to put it to you this way, I'm sponsoring Formula 4 drivers.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of tells you how it's gone, and you know,
You're a bit more relaxed. Let's say.
I guess you could say a little bit more relaxed, and that amount of you know, free living was brought to you by Squarespace and by Skillshare. It became such a meme, but you know,
It's kind of like a V with the channel, isn't it? Now?
It has a little bit, but you know, at the same time, I've had a few sponsors approach me. I've got to believe in them, though. You know,
Exactly. You're not going to sponsor if you don't believe in it, because you've got to promote it on your channel.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I've had a few where I'm just like, nah, no, I'm not running with you. But you know, like with Squarespace, you know, it's like I find it ironic that I accepted that, considering I am a web developer by trade. I've still got my degree. And I remember, like, I think it was like about a week after I got my degree, where I was just like, yeah, my industry's immediately dying because of all these platforms like Squarespace and so forth. Skillshare is great as well, in the sense that, you know, like, there's literally just courses on everything. And they take bugger all time to. I know it sounds like I'm being paid to say all this now, but you know, I personally have to believe in everything that I preach out there. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I can go on about these companies for a while simply because I do believe in them. And thankfully
They believed in you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you know, ultimately, it's provided me with a more comfortable living, especially in this environment. So you know, it's a win-win-win-win-win. Was that too many wins? Oh, I don't know.
We need more wins.
We need more wins. But you know, that's why I kind of describe myself as the Forrest Gump of F1 YouTube. I've just trod my way through here. It's just like.
But I do feel like you are paving a way for different YouTubers now, because you do see more content similar to yours now. Like, you've created a type of content that people have really enjoyed, and obviously tried to play on with it, if that's the way of wording it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen a few ones out there that have sort of imitated the style, which is like, I get you got to take inspiration, but
yeah,
I do wish there were a few more sort of trailblazers out there that tried different things. Like, for example, Sam, Perspective F1. You know, that guy, I got all the time in the world for him, because he's trying new things. He's going out there and, you know, he's creating different stuff, you know.
yeah.
Or like, but if you got your own sort of niche and want to do something, then you can stay on that path. Like, I mean, Tomo was doing the contemporary vlogging, but he's doing it in such a way which is, you know, the quality is second to none. Like, his quality, it makes me, I look at his videos and look at mine, I'm just like, how the shit am I surviving?
He is very good at editing and what he does.
Having said that, you know, it's about being the change that you want to see in the F1 YouTube community, and that's how this channel came to be.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be this extravaganza of amazing editing things. It is meant for the format that you see. You know, the quick pace, the random shit in it. You know, all the information's there, but it's done in a way which any geezer can appreciate what's going on. Of course, there are going to be people that don't like it, but I mean, that's just a fact of life, you know?
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if there was a bit of advice I'd have to give to anyone looking to start the YouTube channel, it's exactly that. Just be the change you want to see in the community. If you go out there saying, I want this many subscribers and views, and if you get I understand how frustrating it is putting stuff out. going out to like 5 people, but you gotta trudge through that stuff. I mean, I think it took like about 10, 11, 12 videos before I got noticed. Ditto with Tomo. You know, it took him a while before he started to get noticed, and he was on the verge of quitting, you know?
Really?
But
wow.
Yeah, but then my Rich Energy video boomeranged into his, and the rest is history. So, again, like, I was inadvertently responsible in some way, shape, or form for Tomo's growth, I suppose you could say. I will take I'm not saying I did it, but I did it.
I didn't do it, but you know.
Yeah, I mean,
give me the 50%.
But that's the point, though. Irrespective of how it happens, sometimes all it takes is for that one little bit of notice. And there were a few YouTubers who were coming to me and saying, I don't know, I don't think this is going to do well. I was like, well, let's collab, because I could see potential in your channel.
Yeah.
And I said, well, this is the video topic I think we should do. This is the format in which I think we should go on. You know, try to help them out, because I have a decent idea of what people want for content. And when that happened with those channels, it just helped them out tremendously. And a few of them are doing great nowadays. You know, we went from, like, at the time of which my channel kicked off, you had Chain Bear, the F1 Word, Eldas, and bugger all others, you know, in terms of like F1 YouTubers nowadays. Yeah, I mean, there's heaps now out there that are doing wonders. So yeah, it's certainly changed quite a bit, that's for sure.
I mean, the F1 community itself is all growing itself. We see a lot more F1 YouTubers now. You never really used to. A few years back, it was always kind of, ever since sort of like Liberty Media came in, you never really saw F1 YouTube. It was never really a thing, was it?
No, but I think as well as that, I've never really watched F1 YouTubers. I also don't think people were trying out things. I mean, Chainbear was probably the more of the trailblazer in that regard, because he was doing incredible things, and like he was the only one, you know, doing that. Otherwise, the vast majority of the stuff were, you know, vlogs, and obviously that's changed now. I do preach that these guys starting their channels need to be careful with their footage usage. I know how to avoid that stuff, but some people are sort of playing with fire there. But
yeah,
hopefully FOM relaxes, and I think they are, which is great. I mean, obviously, like, sharing races full on online,
but 2 second clip,
that's garbage. Yeah, rip that down. But you know, for what we're doing, we're preaching stories and history here.
Exactly.
You know, that they're not doing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm telling stories that no one else does. If someone's already done a video,
they're very unique.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had some people asking me for videos on things, and it's just like, well, so and so's done it. When you go watch that, or you know, people like do a video on, say do a video on WTF happened to Adrian Sutil, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah,
it's just like, I got nothing against Adrian Sutil, but he had a really unremarkable career.
yeah.
So, you know, like, again, they've all got to have a purpose. Those WTF videos have got to have a purpose. Like, they're not just randomly tearing apart a driver. You know, like, they have careers which literally evoke that reaction, you know? For example, the last one, Jacques Villeneuve, like, you know, in the span of, what was it, 2-3 years, he was the IndyCar champion, Indy 500 winner, and Formula 1 world champion, and Formula 1 vice champion as well.
Yeah.
And then after that, he descended down such a slippery slope where he became the Mel Gibson of the racing world. You know, running around with hand puppets saying how he hates young Canadians. Like, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, how did that happen? That's, you know,
I only go from up there to down there.
Exactly, but you know, it's that sort of, you know,
that's an interesting story as well to talk about.
Well, it's more just like, what did happen to him? How did this happen? And the next one, which I'll break the embargo now, my own embargo, I'll break that. The next one is going to be on Jean Lacey, and people will be like, "What? Why him?" It's like, well, why not? If you think about, like 91 or 1990 or 91, where he was battling Ayrton Senna in that Tyrrell.
Yeah.
And then he went to Ferrari and he became such a cult hero. We talk about how Jean Lacey was an amazing driver and he was this awesome character. It's like, why do you only get one win? Why this? Why that? How did he finish his career with a team whose career died at the same time that his did?
Yeah.
Like, what in the name of God happened to his career?
Yeah.
It's something that I ask myself. I literally don't know yet because I haven't scripted it yet. But I want to find out because it's like...
Do you enjoy that part though as well? Like learning about it?
Yeah, I learn every time with these videos. I mean, I learned a lot with this next video, like that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It all just came about of curiosity at dinner. I was like, did they ever race in that country? And then I saw, oh, they did try and race there. Well, there's a story in this.
Yeah.
Because no one else talks about it. I only found out through looking through a subreddit. And then it was going through rabbit holes of, letters from Bernie Ecclestone's office, and then all of a sudden you've got a feature.
Yeah.
But, no one has ever talked about it. But it's such a crazy story. Like, at the end of the day, that's really what I want from a lot of these F1 YouTubers.
Yeah.
Like, I see potential out there, but they've really got to be doing it for the right reasons,
I mean, when I watch your videos, I mean, I do, like, every time I said one of your, like, WTF series or just on a story that I'm like, because your things are like, for example, might as well get onto it now, the Raghunathan video. It was such a, like, it was a big topic at the time. And then it was like, because obviously everyone was literally like on Twitter and on social media just going like, what is this? How? And then you make a video explaining everything, you talk about his career. And it really answers a lot of the questions, which is why, like, because I probably would have been thinking what happened or like how and all this. And then all of a sudden you're there, you've got the video and everyone's clicking on it and going, oh, look, this is why. And it's just really interesting to see. And obviously you make occasional jokes on Raghunathan. You made him into t-shirts.
With t-shirts and the Superman music and all that stuff. Yeah, it was...
What? How did it even blow up like that? Like, it was crazy.
The video in general, or certain elements of the video?
Just the whole meme of... I feel like your video must have like fueled the meme of Raghunathan.
Oh, it did. But, I must admit the Lord Mahavir hashtag was actually born out of Floris Visman from the F1 Feeder Series Twitter page, and he was posting it. I was like, I'll post this as well.
Yeah.
I was contacted by a family member of Raghunathan.
Oh wow.
Who claimed that my video has destroyed Mahavir's career.
Oh.
And I did think for a moment, just like, what did I?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the video was outlining
You were stating
what
facts.
was happening in his career. It was a statement of fact with occasional joke. But the thing is that the nature of the video... Ironically, I started off the video by talking about Eddie the Eagle and about how that guy was hopeless, but everyone loved him.
Yeah.
For some reason. It's just, no one can explain it. There are other people who were just as bad, but this guy...
He was special.
He was just special, And that's the thing. Like, if that's the unique thing about it all.
Yeah.
If you marched in like a Nikita Mazepin or a Alessio Deleta into a room, not a lot of people are going to like them because they're not great personalities. But if you have Mahavir in the room, I like, for better or for worse, he's going to be attracting attention, but generally it's not for people wouldn't be saying, like, no, you're the guy who put Jack Aitken's career in danger at Monaco, you know, they'd actually be like, can we get a photo? Hey, Lord Mojave, or whatever have you. For better or for worse, you know, it's made him a popular character, whereas the intention really was, how did this happen? What the hell happened throughout the entire career? You know, we heard throughout the year that things were going on, but, you know, I mean, I noticed when I was making the video that at some stage during the year, there were so many penalty points for him that FIA Formula 2 just stopped reporting them. Because there were that many of them.
So many, yeah.
And I remember he was nerfed off the website. They have no mention of him. It clearly looked as though they were wiping their hands off of him. But then they bring in Delito, who's slower than him.
Like Mojave, he won a championship, didn't he?
Yeah, so he won the Boss GP championship in the secondary class. But the thing with the Boss GP championship is that it's just a gentleman's championship where they run older machinery.
Yeah.
So in the main class, they run old Formula 1 cars, and they got, I think his name's Ingo Gerstel. You know, he runs a Toro Rosso car, and runs it very well. There's Klaus Svort, who owns the Ascari Race Resort and owned the Ascari car company. He runs a Jaguar R5. And these are like 2000s cars. You've got like a 97 Benetton in there. But, you know, apart from Ingo, all of them are just potter around. It's more of a driver's parade of anything.
Yeah.
You got to remember, a lot of these guys are 50, 60 years old driving these cars. Mojave was in the secondary class, which was running A1GP and Formula 3000 machinery and GP2.
Yeah.
And he ran if I'm correct, I think he ran an Auto GP car. It could have been similar. I'm not entirely... I can't remember verbatim right now what it was. But there were probably about 2 or 3 young guys in that championship that he ran. And in the year that he won, the only other guy that had a shot only raced half the championship. But in the times that he was in the car, he trounced him.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds like I'm kind of picking apart this stuff, but really... Trying to prove your worth in the Boss GP Championship is a bit... If
you're going to show your worth, at least do in GP2 or something.
Let me put it this way. It's like trying to qualify for the FIFA World Cup in the Oceania sort of area.
Yeah.
It's like, New Zealand's qualified for the FIFA World Cup. Yeah. And you beat the Solomon Islands to do it. What are you proving here? You've got so much more... that you're supposed to offer. Like, what are we proving here? And sure enough, they went to the...
I mean, he literally beat old men. That was it.
Yeah, it really was an old man's championship. It's just, it's club racing with expensive toys.
Yeah.
Not
wrong.
But, yeah, I remember I was quite angry, really, when I thought about it, because... I was thinking, at the time, there was Richard Verschaw, who I thought, I couldn't understand why Red Bull dropped him at the time. And I was like, this guy, why is he not in Formula 2? Why is Mojave there? And that was when the more passionate side of me came out. I'm just like, this isn't even about just trashing drivers at random. Why is this guy in the sport ahead of these other guys that have won championships and have been Red Bull drivers and all the stuff like this is not on.
I mean, it's the reversing one for me when a Baku, he doesn't have to reverse the car.
He was just trying to do that. I mean, like...
I just remember just watching it going, what's he doing? And then his manager or whatever, like the team principal was going, gotta go in reverse. He's like, oh, okay.
It was just like you have to. I think he said actually you have to steer the car.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but
I understand they're a little bit hard to flick spin, but I mean you could see the engine was cooked after doing that 600-point turn. But yeah, it's just it took on a life of its own, and for better or for worse, it's become a staple of the channel.
Same as, would you say, Lance Stroll as well? Sir Lancelot?
Yeah, but with Regunion, I thought it sort of just reached. I thought it just sort of reached an end. Like
Yeah.
it's been here, it's been done. Throw up the occasional reference, but for now, just
Thing is, when people say the name Mahavir Raghunathan, people like associate with you because it's like it's just the way it like came about. Because I feel like he was known, but not as well known until like because he was just only people who really watched F2 really knew who he was probably. Cause that's when he was like, that's when he was in the more spotlight. And then when that video came out, that video blew up, and then I feel like from then on, that's when everything kicked off, and then that's when Mahavir became the meme. And but then again, when you was the virtual GPs, even like Charles Leclerc, they'll they were still making fun of him as well. Like they were going, "Don't hit me."
it's that's. I mean, people will probably think, "Oh, it's the video did that." You go into the paddock and you listen to how drivers speak toward each other. Like it's a toxic environment. It's I mean, what you see in front of the camera is wholly different. If you listen to Drive to Survive and you listen to the amount of swearing that Gunther Steiner does, that's not too different from what you would hear from like anybody in the paddock. And the amount of sort of empty abuse thrown out there, it's just a really crappy environment, the paddock.
I'd assume Jack Aitken would have that opinion after Monaco. Like he would have been exactly like that in that car.
You could probably say that. I mean, honestly, he put his life in danger. So, like that. I was angry watching that in real time. I was just like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Like this is actually just so garbage. But yeah, the other two drivers which have sort of really caught onto the channel, obviously there's Lance Stroll.
Sean Goliath, would you say with him as well? I feel like he's becoming a bit of a meme with your channel.
To a lesser extent. I think people were really being a bit mean on him. Obviously he's not the greatest driver in the world, but he's not bad. But there was a lot of memes that you could throw about with him, and I just thought, just have a bit of fun, and don't insinuate that he's the worst driver in the world, but jokingly insinuate that he is the best driver in the world. But yeah, I've definitely got nothing bad to say against Sean. He was probably just a bit of a journeyman in Formula 2, but you have those, but he definitely wasn't that bad. But there is a bit of a story behind him. With Lance, there definitely is a story behind him. Because I, have been behind the scenes, so to speak. I don't want to sound like I know everything that happens. But, becoming more involved with motorsport changed my opinion of him. Because, I was following him from his karting days.
Oh, wow.
Him getting introduced to the I heard about how he was signed with Ferrari and that he was a Canadian karting champion. I'm just like, okay, I'll keep tabs on this kid. And he came over to New Zealand and won the Toyota Racing Series and the New Zealand Grand Prix, and won Formula 4, Formula 3, and I was thinking, this kid's got the goods. Like, I'm definitely looking forward to him. And then he got to Formula 1, and for the first 3 years, he really struggled. I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on here? But, watching him drive, especially in the first couple of years, if you see the onboards, and he was extremely choppy at the wheel, and I was like, this is painful to watch. Like, he really does not look like he's driving that car very well.
He did have a difficult car with the Williams.
A little bit, but he was just in the turn. He was just very, very choppy. It was like he was still driving a Formula 3 car.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different style of driving. And obviously last year he improved. The first 2 rounds were pretty lukewarm. Like,
he had a bit of a dip at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean the first 2 rounds he was behind Checo in the pace front for the majority of the weekend. It was like, Checo's up there fighting for podiums and Lance's sort of battling in amongst the McLarens and Renaults. Like, it's not bad, but, you know, Checo's up there. Then Hungary came along, and it's just like, whoa, okay, this is completely different. But, you know, I was watching the onboard, I'm just like, he's changed his style so much.
He's actually trying to fit the car, yeah.
But, you know, the way he drives as well, ironically, you know, it's not very good in the rain. It's not very good in the dry, but in the wet, no,
he's brilli't.
He's bloody good. He's one of the best on the grid in terms of the wet weather driving. But, you know, it's funny how that works. It commands a totally different driving style, and some drivers do it better than most. And Lance is one of the best on the grid in the wet. But you can't be a one-trick pony. You got to be performing all the time.
Yeah.
Because this is the pinnacle of motorsport, you know. But, you know, like, from Hungary through to Mugello, Lance was driving better than Checo, which I thought, great. We're seeing the consistency that I've needed to see from this kid. Like, he always has potential, but he just never delivered it week in and week out.
He was a bit inconsistent, yeah.
Like, saying, oh, he had a great race in Monza 2017. It's like, yes, it was absolutely amazing, that performance. Why isn't he doing it every so often? Like, I'm not saying every weekend, but, you know, we shouldn't be saying, do you remember 2017 or that one race in 2019? It's like, yeah, Pedro Diniz also had some good races.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but that was the first time where I saw consistently good results from him, and he was very unlucky in, you know, Mugello and Sochi with things beyond his control. Mugello, that crash would have knocked him because he went over the fence.
Would have scared him, like your tyre going popping over, you know, flat out right-hander.
Yeah, that was the worst thing that could have possibly happened. But, you know, like, I mean, there was Turkey, which was outstanding. It was an outstanding performance from him. But apart from that, for the rest of the season, he sort of plateaued again. I'm just like, oh my God, here we go again. And people point out, it's just like people just point out, oh, he had COVID. Yeah, it was so did Checo.
He's won a race.
He had a knock at Mugello. It's like, yeah, but, you know, like, I don't know, like, it's odd. For some drivers, we'll make these excuses. For other ones, we won't. I just was thinking to myself, this is a kid. He's still a kid, but it's his 4th year in the game.
He's not a rookie.
He's not a rookie anymore. Like, he's not a kid anymore. This is his 5th year in the game now with Aston Martin.
Yeah. And
now against Seb, who, you know, I like Seb, but I've got an opinion right now on his form. You know, but
I think a lot of people do.
You know, Lance is up against Seb, and I've been saying at the start of this year, like, even at the end of last year, with, you know, how he was going and how Aston was looking for next year, I always thought in my mind, steadfast, I was like, I'm 100% certain Lance is winning a race this year. It may not be in the conventional terms of him dominating, but I can just see him winning a race, and I can see him pushing Seb.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because Lance is the best thing since sliced bread, but because he's developing himself to an extent now where he's pretty decent on his day. On the regular, he still needs to get that consistency, because even last year, it was good for about...
He had a couple of races, and then that was about it.
Yeah, but, you know... this is where I'm going to start to tear him apart again. So, you know, I know quite a few people that work in, especially New Zealand motorsport.
Yeah.
And I will not name names, and I won't name specific incidents, but I'll put this very vaguely in the sense of the 2016 European Formula 3 Championship. Lawrence guarded Lance a lot more than he should have. That's all I'll say on the matter. I'll just... I know what happened internally, and it really... It made me look at all parties involved and made me think, for God's sake. Like this... I mean, it makes the other driver look like a chump. It makes Lance look bad, and really neither of them needed it. I think at that stage Lance could have done without what happened, and still won the championship. It's that sort of Lawrence really coddling Lance and trying to lead him by the hand through, which I again didn't think was necessary. But yeah, I don't really like talking about that because it makes everyone look bad, I suppose. Whereas, it like if it was a case like the stories of Giotto helping the likes of Joe and Mazepin in Formula 2, which is well documented that, they drafted in Giotto and paid for his seat to effectively coach these two drivers. But even when Giotto did that for those drivers, they still didn't really win a championship. Lance dominated at Prem.
Yeah.
That's really motorsport in a lot of cases. You do have, I always say, if you hear a story in the motorsport paddock which sounds pathetic, it's probably true. Because again, especially when you go there and you listen in the media pen and you just hear all these stories, it's just like, they're true because they just came from the pits.
Yeah.
It does make you think twice, but the Stroll's money thing, I know I talk about it a lot, but that's because it's very public,
Yeah.
It's
no
not
secret.
like a lot of other drivers where they're a little bit obscure with their money. Like, no one really talks about Lando Norris's money because it's not as well documented, but with Stroll it's out there,
It's definitely out there.
If you see his yacht, I think I read somewhere that they got a permanent staff on his yacht of like 20 people.
Permanent?
It's just a permanent staff of 20.
Oh my god.
And I mean, when
Jesus.
he was over here for the Toyota Racing Series, they bought an RV. Now, the thing you have to bear in mind is that this championship is a 5-week championship at the start of the year.
Yeah.
The cost of the championship are about $150,000 if you want to get a top team and an engineer.
Yeah.
And accommodation packages will cost you more. But I would suspect with him, they would have spent about double that on their own budget. Because rich drivers always put out the resources. That's not unique to Stroll. That's all rich drivers put in more resources. And they didn't get the accommodation stuff. They bought an RV. So it was another $250,000.
Oh god.
So they drive it around with a trailer and stuff with all the barbecues and stuff in the back, which I gotta be honest, I can't fault. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And they got to...
It's not going to be bad either.
No, exactly. And then they got to Manfield, the final round for the New Zealand Grand Prix. Lance crosses the line, wins the New Zealand Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And that was back when Lawrence had a beard. As well, ironically.
Yeah.
He definitely looked like... he definitely properly looks like Mr. Incredible. It's uncanny. But, this is when it gets really... They say this happened, but I'm a bit doubtful. But the basic story of how it went was that he found out how much it was going to cost to ship the RV either back to Canada or Europe.
Yeah.
And he was like, forget about it. So, drove back up to Auckland, went to the airport, drove into the parking lot, took out the luggage, left the keys in the cabin, just left the RV there.
What?
Just like,
Just
didn't
dipped.
bother to sell it, just like, just leave it to rot at the airport.
Oh my god.
It's just that expenditure of, that blatant expenditure of money, and
$250,000 on it and then just leave it like it's nothing.
I also heard two stories as well. One from Simdane, who he told me about how a subscriber of his works at a pizza restaurant in Quebec.
Yeah.
And how the Strolls would have a helicopter come with the world's most expensive Uber Eats, land on the building
What?
of the pizza place, and have the pizza delivered to their place out in wherever he is.
Yeah.
And then another one I heard was like at places like Port Ricard, they've got like the airport next to the circuit.
Yeah.
Drivers would have their private jets there. The Strolls have two. One of them is to take Lawrence and Lance to and fro the circuit, and the other one is for the girls. You know, the Lance's sisters and mother to go off to Marseille whenever they're bored to do their shopping.
I can't believe that. They got on a plane just to go shopping in.
It's just, but you know that's the thing though. It's never that public with anyone else, and it's not as if I'm necessarily taking the piss out of them. It's just such a funny story. It just shows you the contrast between, you know, someone trying to raise $4,000 for their next Formula Ford round, and putting that into contrast with what you're up against with people who can afford to race in Formula One. You know? But yeah, that stint where I was sort of tearing him apart, that was at the end of 2019, where he wasn't showing much in the way of improvement. You know, in Formula One, it was like treading water.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't defend him anymore. I was one of the people at the start was just saying, just give him time. And now it's just like, it's 3 complete seasons now. What have we seen?
Yeah.
And then conveniently, after all the jokes were plastered, then he picks up his form.
Yeah.
And it makes me look like a total doofus. But, you know, it's, you know, the Sir Lancelot thing, I think that was really just a total accident. With just, you know, one of those spur of the moment things. But
the thing is, these things always happen as like, you never plan them. They always just...
No, you can't plan these things. They just are. They just happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely got nothing against Lance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just, I just hope he can just sort of
show it off now.
Suss out the consistency issue. But he'll be in Formula One for donkey's years.
I can't see him leaving, no. Unless Hamilton replaces him or something like that. Like, there's no way he's going.
Well, you know, this is the thing that I've been saying. I want him to leave Formula One, but not for the reasons some may think. I want him to leave Formula One so that he can compete in the hypercar World Endurance Championship with Aston Martin. And the reason why I want that is because his driving style and his abilities perfectly suit GT racing.
Yeah, because that's quite choppy, isn't it?
Yeah, I know people would be thinking, well, you're just saying this to say this. It's like, no, legitimately, if I had to create a World Endurance team right now, Lance would be in it.
Yeah.
Because he has the abilities you look for in an endurance driver, you know?
Yeah.
Good ability to adapt to the conditions. He's great at managing traffic. He's great over a race distance, you know? Raw pace, yeah, there's a bit to be desired, but, you know...
Just lacks the consistency.
But it's just every other ability that you look for, it's there, you know? And so he'd be world champion a few times over if he went to World Endurance Championship, but, you know, like, I'm not Lawrence, so I don't say where he goes.
Yeah. You're expecting a lawsuit to open his mouth against Lawrence. He's coming for you. I think this brings us on nicely to some fan questions now. So on Twitter, I asked some fan questions. Let's go through them. I've got 7 here because a few of them were quite generally the same sort of question. So I got the first one here from @JohnWarrenYT, who says, was it difficult when you started your channel in a niche that hadn't really grown yet, or was it in a way an opportunity to be more creative? I mean, we kind of briefly spoke on this at the start.
I mean, we did.
Yeah.
I never set out to try and grow the channel. It was just...
You wanted that content that no one else was making. You just wanted to answer the question. Like you said, you were trying to search for a video and it wasn't there. So you wanted to just fulfill it,
was
I
about
guess?
creating content that I wanted to see in the community.
Yeah.
It was never about trying to grow the channel. Yeah, it was a bit frustrating producing videos for people, like 3 people that were watching it at the time.
Yeah.
But I did that for like a dozen videos with how much effort was going into those videos. I didn't care. They were just, you know, videos that I felt needed to be made.
Yeah.
You know? in that format especially. So I never really concerned myself about trying to grow the channel or purposely finding a niche. It was just a case of I wanted to see something in the community.
Yeah.
And I knew how I wanted to do it, and, you know, I had an idea of how it would work. And I'm still developing it to this day, and I'll still be developing it for as long as I'm running it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's about going back to what I was saying before. Like, the intentions have got to be pure. I see this with way too many channels. They're doing it for the clicks. They're, you know, clickbaiting this, clickbaiting that.
Yeah.
And to me, those channels are dead. Like, if you start doing stuff like, I don't know, clickbaiting Romain Grosjean's crash at Bahrain, I mean, to me, that's like you're gone. Like, really, you got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if the answer is, I want to be a famous YouTuber, stop now. Because I'm telling you, even for how much I love doing my stuff, there are days where I'm slamming my head against the desk saying, I hate this. So,
wow.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, John, but...
I mean, like I said, we briefly spoke about it at the start of the podcast about how it all started, so... The answer.
John's doing well himself. He's in the 20,000.
He's in the 30s.
Mark. 30. All right. Yeah, so he's doing well himself. So I don't know why he's asking that question. I think he should know the answer by now. He should have already found out the secret.
He's found the secret formula.
You don't need to know the secret, John. You're doing perfectly fine.
I actually did a podcast with him, and we did speak briefly about it, which will be out soon, guys. Make sure to check it out. Actually, it will probably be out by the time this one's out.
Oh, go check it out now.
Go check it out. It's out right now.
After this,
you got to finish watching this one, of course.
You got to stay with us.
We got another one here from @DominicR_2005. What do you think of the current management of Formula 1 compared to how it used to be, such as when Bernie was in control, or the amount of races that are on a calendar now? And why do you think that is? Quite a big question.
Yeah, there was a few points to that question, actually. Bernie versus Liberty, definitely Liberty in terms of how they're promoting the sport. I mean, Bernie was
probably bigger than ever has been right now.
I mean, Bernie...
Crazy.
Put it to you this way, it's like looking at McLaren management. Like Ron Dennis made the team into what it is today, but in 2014, 2015, he needed to go.
Yeah.
he was really starting to weigh the team down with what it needed to be. And then Zach Brown came in, and he's made it into a fantastic team. Especially in terms of how that team connects to the audience. It's the same deal with Formula 1. You know, Bernie made the sport into what it is today, but very draconian and antiquated in how they were trying to reach out to fans. I remember where they were trying to start something on the YouTube channel. It's like, you don't know how social media operates, don't you?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Liberty took it over, and there were people who were concerned, but I saw the company, I saw what they were trying to do. I was like, this is great. This is what the sport needs. And sure enough, they made it great. The only thing is, they are quintessentially capitalistic Americans.
Yeah.
So they go straight for the money.
Yeah.
And I'll go off on a tangent here because I feel the need to. And forgive me if I use some strong language. But why the fuck do we have the Saudi Grand Prix? Who the fuck asked for it? Nobody wants it. And it's a 10-year guaranteed contract.
10 years?
I mean, it's guaranteed.
I didn't even know that.
Well, it's worth a lot of money to them, you know, and especially with, you know, the state-owned oil company is a primary sponsor of Formula 1.
Yeah.
It sucks, you know, in the sense that, you know,
I don't want another street circuit.
To put it bluntly, nobody wants it. Like nobody wants this Grand Prix.
No one asked for it.
No one asked for it. Meanwhile,
give us Malaysia or something.
Or Africa. But
yeah.
Stefano Domenicali is apparently very close to happening, going back to South Africa.
Oh, really?
And me and Sim Dane are going to take some responsibility for that happening.
Oh, wow.
We need a race down in Africa. You know, I can't remember. It's freaking ironic. I actually remember the lyrics of that song better than the actual lyrics of Toto by Africa. But yeah, they are pretty centered around money. And,
yeah.
Sean Galal's father, Ricardo Galal, mentioned that and said that, you know, they're too embroiled in, you know, money, and that's the reason why Sean didn't get in. I was like, well, the reason why Sean didn't get in is because he doesn't have a super license, but, you know, ignore that for a moment. It's the reality is that they've done great with promoting the sport, you know. Drive to Survive has played a big role in that.
Massive role, yeah.
I mean, people will say, oh, DTS fans are the worst. Fans have got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
You know, we were all noobs at one time. We didn't know nothing. Like, yeah, sure, you know that friggin' the top 3 in 1982 World Championship was Keke Rosberg, Didier Pironi, and John Watson. You know that now. But did you know about that the first time you watched the sport? No, you didn't. You got to let these fans, you got to let these fans in. But, especially the newer fans, that are, I love it when I see a new fan absolutely become so engrossed in the sport and want to learn. Like, how do you pronounce her name? Diana? I can't remember how you pronounce her name, but she's probably one of the only F1 YouTubers at all that I watch, because you're watching these races, you're watching someone learn about the history of the sport, but they're already so invested in it,
Yeah.
It's like, it's listening to someone talk about Carlos Reutemann like that and not have it be Peter Windsor, It's just like, it's uncanny to hear someone be so passionate about Carlos Reutemann and it's not Daddy Warbucks. It's a lot of people don't like Drive to Survive. It's honestly one of the best things that's happened to this sport.
I mean, a lot of my friends have watched Formula 1 because I said watch Drive to Survive, and then they've gotten more invested in it because that's what it was for.
I wish they would stop the
I hate the fake drama.
The scripted shit.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to. There's plenty of content throughout the season and stuff to follow. They don't need to fake stuff, which is what they did. And some will say, "Oh, it's about drafting in the new fans." It's like, well, you're setting up a false expectation.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You have to be honest about what you're portraying on the screen. Yeah, put in stuff for comedic relief every so often. That's what I do with my videos, but I don't make up facts.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Exactly.
But yeah, in short, I think, it's night and day better, with Liberty in charge. And again, if we want to talk about money, for God's sake, Bernie was trying to get in bed with everyone back then. And he made those race fees what they are, which was way too expensive. So, they're both bad in that regard. The difference is that Liberty has pretty much saved the sport from becoming as closed off as it was back then.
Yeah. We've got another one here of @SennaK17, who says, "Hello Josh, what is your opinion on Formula 1 holding multiple races in one country? Do you think each country should be limited to one Grand Prix? If yes, why? If no, why not? Love the content, man."
Well, hello. That username, I can't pronounce it again.
@SennaK17.
Yes, that one. Hello. Multiple races in one country. How many years in Formula 1 have we had that? Like, over half of Formula 1's years, we've had an instance where there have been two races or more in, one country. Like in the 80s, there were 3 American Grand Prix at one time.
Yeah.
They were all garbage, but I mean, like,
Still happened.
They tried. Italy with Monza and Imola for a long time. With 1980 it was just Imola hosting the Italian Grand Prix, and then they were like, no, we need Monza. So from 1981 through to 2006, they had erroneously called the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. There have been other instances in the past where that's happened.
Yeah.
And likelihood is it's going to happen again in the United States or in China, because they're big markets. That they're very market oriented. But I think yeah. And there's also the European Grand Prix as well. Have things like, I don't know, Silverstone and Donington, Silverstone and Brands Hatch, Nürburgring. The Luxembourg Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, or the Swiss Grand Prix in Dijon. Like, okay.
I mean, they had the Catalunya, like the Spanish Grand Prix, and then they had the Europe Grand Prix at
European
Valencia.
Grand Prix at Jerez.
Or Valencia.
Jerez.
Yeah.
And at Valencia. Yeah. Just it's been going on for ages. I'm not against it, but there's got to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think many of those Grand Prix did have a reason to be doubled up on there, except for San Marino, because nothing better than to see the Tifosi out there throwing tomatoes at anyone not driving a red car. But as some pointed out before, 1994 kind of ruined that venue. But I think really having 2 races in Italy, probably not the best thing. You got Monza, and that's an occasion,
Yeah.
I don't think San Marino adds to that at the moment. But there are some countries that they go to where they don't have a good enough one track, let alone 2 of them. Like, France is an issue. Like, I can't understand why France doesn't have a good Formula 1 track.
I know.
Because Paul Ricard's boring. You can't pass at Manicourt. The Bugatti, ironically, I think the best circuit that they can use right now for Formula 1 would probably be the Bugatti circuit at Le Mans. But they're not going to go there because, there's going to be some excuse, I suppose. But even though I think a race on there would be amazeballs. But,
Yeah.
Again, there's a reason I don't make the decisions in Formula 1. But there are some countries that they do need to go to. Like, they need to go to Africa. South Africa is probably the best option. Otherwise, Morocco. Maybe Argentina again, depending upon if they can get another driver in there. But, they've got a kid called... Argentina have got a kid called Franco Colapinto who's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding as a driver, but no money. And that's sort of the problem. This is a guy like, in the Toyota Racing Series, if you're with M2 competition, you're guaranteed to be in contention. If you're driving anything else, you don't have a hope in hell.
Yeah.
And he was with Kiwi Motorsport, and I thought, okay. But, he was the fastest driver at the end of the championship. Now, he was beating Liam Lawson and Carl Collette and all these big names that you see. He was beating them all. He was fantastic. He was beating Yuki Tsunoda easily in M2 competition.
That's talent.
He's talented as all hell, but again, it's just lack of money. But at the same time, I think a lot of these Grand Prix, I think if you're in Formula 1, you've got to have a home Grand Prix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were years where you couldn't really justify the Canadian Grand Prix because Villeneuve had gone, but Lance and Latifi are in there now. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. The United States Grand Prix, I suppose it's a bit of a different thing, but there should be an American on the grid, whether it's Alexander Rossi or Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah.
Brazilian Grand Prix, I don't care if there's no Brazilians on the grid.
Brilliant track.
Interlagos, for me, should always close out the season.
Yeah.
But, you go to places like Abu Dhabi,
Saudi Arabia.
Turkey. Even though I know it's not on the schedule at the moment, but when they cancel the Canadian Grand Prix, it will be.
Yeah.
And Turkey's a great track, but why?
I mean, it's true.
It's just like I know it's harsh, but
it does make more sense if they base the tracks on the actual nationalities of the grid.
Well, I think more for the relevance of the motoring scene, I suppose, and that's where
fans as well.
That's where a race in the UAE is not off the books totally, because they do have an active motoring scene there.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got to start from somewhere. I just wish that they sorted out Sector 3 at Abu Dhabi, or move to another venue, because it's just...
It's a nice location though, but the track's terrible.
Sector 1 and 2, when you think about it,
if they
Sectors
straight
1 and
lined
2,
that first sector, instead of going left and then into that left, right, and then onto that hairpin, because I'm pretty sure there's carry more momentum.
Problem with going straight on there, there's not enough runoff, and if you have a brake failure going into there, by the time you realise the brakes have gone, you're already going through the pearly gates.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like, whoa, hang on, am I dead? Did the brakes fail?
Yeah, that's true.
And they can't move it back because
it stands there.
It's a permanent grandstand. So there's not a lot of room for manoeuvre. But that third sector does need to be sorted out.
That third sector is the worst. Yeah, but, it's just 90 degree, and slow.
But there is a scene there, I suppose with the UAE. So there's a reason to keep it there. With Turkey, I got plenty of jokes to say there, but I don't want to get your video demonetized. Nor do I want an airstrike sanctioned in either of our locations.
Yep, that's fair enough.
But all I'll say is that there's not a very large active scene there from what I've seen with motoring. So why should that venue be put ahead of Kyalami in South Africa?
Yeah.
I realise South Africa's a little dangerous sometimes, but it's a place with great heritage in motorsport, and it's it's the best place to put the World Championship venue for Africa. Argentina, you had the likes of Fangio, Jose Froilan Gonzalez, Carlos Reutemann. There's history there, of course.
Yeah.
So I think there does need to be. I realise how long I carried out this question, but I could just get lost in talking about Formula One. Of course, that's my job.
That's what I do.
In short, and you're going to have to refer back to the question again for the other points that he asked. But for the two races things, there are too many other venues that we need to go to before we start considering adding on 2 races. Which, if you add on 2 more races. If you add another race to a country, it's got to be done for the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly. It can't just be 2 races at Turkey for no reason.
No, it's got to be on a good track.
Yeah.
But I feel that we're kind of reliving the 80s a little bit with Formula One trying to get in with major markets such as United States and China.
Yeah.
Through street circuits, which aren't going to be good for passing, which are going to break up and be on the calendar for about 2 or 3 years. What were the other points in his question?
What's your opinion on it? Then do you think they should be limited to 1?
I don't know about limiting. It's just, there should be essential races on the calendar. Everything else you fill it up with, they've got to have a purpose to them.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Hungary. Why do we have that Grand Prix on there now that Robert Kubica's not racing anymore?
Yeah. That's a good point. And now we're going to go on to the quick-fire questions. Explosions. That's what that was.
Very, very highly invested sound effects by the sounds of things.
Right, we got 10 questions here, but basically how this works is I'm going to give you some questions and it's going to basically say the first thing that comes to your head and let's have a little chat about it. The first one here is, what is the one thing you would like to put on, what's that first thing you'd like to put on your bucket list? Or that's something that you want to do?
Okay, damn. Jump into the Monaco swimming pool.
That's actually a good shout. That's very unique as well. I don't know that one. The next question is, who do you admire the most?
Who do I admire the most? God.
Who's your hero?
I have a lot of heroes. For goodness sake. Damn, I gotta try and think of someone. Who do I admire the most? I realise this is quick fire questions, but
The pressure.
Think.
Boom, boom. Sound effects coming back at it.
I don't know. Okay, I'll just say Richie McCaw. I don't know.
And why is that?
He may not be the best at what he does, but with the work that he does, he becomes the best in a very weird sense. Plus, I mean, he's probably the only person in human history that can take down an entire that can take down the entire country of France by lying in a ruck. That makes no sense to anyone that doesn't watch rugby. Sorry.
People are just going to be like, what the hell?
It's just like, who is this Richie McCaw? But any rugby fans who would have heard that would just be like, I'm unsubscribing from Josh right now.
Next one. Favourite F1 driver of all time and current?
Oh, jeez. Okay.
It could be the same driver.
I have a joint favourite right now. My joint favourite right now is Checo and Charles.
Yeah.
Of all time. That's hard. I don't really have outright favourites. But if I had to choose it right now, Senna.
Senna? Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with that.
No.
Next one. If you could meet any celeb, right, and be best mates with them, like you literally you get on with them really well, best mates, you're living with them, who would it be and why?
Coming at me with hard questions here.
They get easier towards the end.
Keanu Reeves. The guy seems like a cool bloke.
He does seem like a cool bloke. I can't argue that one
Plus,
again.
I mean, I really want to, have the security of being best mates with a guy that can kill 3 guys with a pencil.
Next one. Favourite artist / band currently?
Even though they're not sort of around anymore, probably still would be Linkin Park.
Yeah. They're very good. And I mean, the next one is of all time. Would you classify that as all time as well, or would it be a different one?
Yeah, I would classify that as all time. It's, probably one of the only concrete ones that I've got, really.
Yeah.
Like, of the answers. Just like, I think it's them.
And number 8, what have you done that you are most proud of?
Getting that YouTube plaque up there. That's, obviously you can't see it because you're not seeing my camera right now, but
people at home
getting that YouTube 100,000 subscriber plaque, which,
Is it heavy?
Ironically, that plaque is both it looks really high quality. Then you pick it up and you feel it, you're just like, fuck, this feels cheap. It feels quite light. It feels quite...
Is it?
Delicate. It doesn't feel kind of... It's a bit of an odd thing to carry around. But, like back in my high school years, that was when all the Let's Play videos on YouTube, that was all the rage.
Yeah.
That's what we all wanted to be when we grow up. It's like, I want to be this YouTuber. Ironically, I wanted to be a YouTuber for the main reason why I'm telling people not to be YouTubers, because I just wanted to be famous for the sake of being famous.
Yeah.
That thing was always sort of just like, imagine if I got that, and then I got it. I'm just like, holy crap!
Did it feel a bit surreal when it comes to you through your door, like on the post?
Yeah. It was just, I just looked at it. I was just like, yeah, I did it.
Damn, I made it.
I made it. I started from the bottom, and I'm somewhere in the middle right now. But, I'm getting there.
Next one, number 9. With 2 more. These are I feel like they're quite easy, these ones. Like, these are
Oh, good.
not as deep, these ones. We got Xbox or PlayStation.
PlayStation. I've just always been brought up on that stuff.
And the last one, iPhone or Android.
Still run iPhone all the time. I'm a sucker for the Americans to steal my data.
Big fan of it. So thank you, Josh, for coming on to the podcast. Really means a lot.
Oh, good man. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure to check Josh out in the description. Let's be real, you know who he is. Like, you haven't gone from my channel to him. You come from him to me.
The guy with the really bad animations and the very annoying voice is the man that you're seeing before you. Thank you very much for coming onto this guy's channel for the podcast.
So yeah, like I said, link in the description for Josh. Go check him out. Give him some love. But like I said, you know who he is. Anyway, so thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't be a Marnus. And
keep it respectful, be wholesome, don't be a Marnus, and as always, I'll see you all later.
jeez, live outro.
Live outro, yeah.
Don't be a Marnus. And see you guys in a bit.